breathe in each other. There is no garden.
So in a way, the creation of this world event was really a Tai Chi exercise, just like everything that we do in our lives. It's like our relationships, if arts that we're involved in, or sports that we're involved in, or creating businesses, or whatever it is that we're approaching in our life. It's like it's learning how to breathe and loosen and relax and kind of let intuition and possibility flow through, and also to be aware of the points where we need to exert some pressure in order to get the maximum benefit. So really, Tai Chi is a way of life. It's not just an exercise.
If you apply the same principles and the same skill set to other areas of life, for example, relationships or business or even politics, and look into even more distant future, let's say 50 years to 100 years from now, where do you see humanity if we really learn how to apply this principle, this wisdom in all spheres of our lives?
People, people learning mind-body arts, as they immerse themselves in these meditative states in this field of chi or life energy, they become more and more resonant to the feeling of connectedness. They feel more connected to one another and to the planet and to the web of life. And so all that's going to facilitate a whole new way of interacting with other people. I see in the future that every Congress, every Parliament, every business meeting is going to start with some kind of Tai Chi or Qigong or mind-body meditation or something that's going to calm the nervous system and create this kind of creative possibility in people's minds before they engage in any kind of endeavor. And I think we're going to untangle a lot of the knots that we just thought of as the way of the world. It's like it's all in an evolutionary state, and I see. I don't see this doom and gloom that a lot of people see for the future. I don't yearn for the past. I'm in a point now where I'm more excited to see the unfolding future than I've ever been in a long time.
This is Lama Tantrapa with the Secrets of Qigong Masters, a talk show brought to you by Cabinet Qidao, first and only school in the world offering professional education in Qigong coaching. Please visit qigongcoaching.com to find out about Academy of Qidao and its programs. This show is also brought to you by Mastery Magazine, the international e-zine dedicated to mastery in Qigong, coaching, and life. Please visit masterymagazine.com to enjoy reading the recent issues of the publication. Today, I'm delighted to interview Bill Douglas, the founder of World Tai Chi and Qigong Day, the practitioner of Tai Chi and Qigong for over 30 years, and the author of many books, including The Complete Idiot's Guide to Tai Chi and Qigong. He is a well-known practitioner of the meditation and energy arts, and inductee in the Hall of Fame of Martial Arts. Welcome to our program, Bill. It's always great to have you on our show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be with you.
Today, I would like to discuss with you the subject of the use of Tai Chi and Qigong for conscious evolution of the human race. This is the theme of our Summit of Qigong Masters, 12-12-12, and this is also something perhaps that's close to your heart as well.
Yes. Yeah, I've been very excited about this concept of this 12-12-12 celebration going on around the planet. And I know Dr. Effie Chow and Donald Rubo and Cheryl Rubo and different major Tai Chi and Qigong practitioners have gotten involved in it because I think it's so important to recognize the possibilities that we all face as practitioners and as humanity, because we're all out there in the world. One of the things that's happened with the end of December 2012 is Hollywood and all this stuff has kind of hyped up these kind of doomsday scenario type things, and we. It's not only inaccurate. I just read an article. Some archaeologists had discovered some inscriptions on the Mayan pyramids that stated that this time that we're in now is actually the beginning of some new ways of proceeding into the future, not the end of everything, but the media just latches onto all those kind of things. And so I think it's such a positive thing for people to be involved in this kind of global celebration of humanity or humanity's birthday, or the Shift Network has been involved in it, and Barbara Marx Hubbard and many notables, visionaries, and people that are well known throughout society. Because I think ultimately, the most important prophecy is the self-fulfilling prophecy, and so the world is what we make of it. And so with Tai Chi and Qigong, these are arts and sciences that are designed to help us maximize our potential as human beings. And so it's very appropriate that so many Tai Chi and Qigong practitioners are getting involved in this 12-12-12 celebration, and also the events that are happening on through December 22nd. And so I'm really excited to be here talking to you about it, and we'll share all this information with the World Tai Chi and Qigong Day family through our global newsletter.
And of course, you can also share with us today about the World Tai Chi and Qigong Day that you initiated with your wife Angela some number of years ago, 15 years ago. So.
Yeah, it's been about 15 years, and we started the event with just a big mass Tai Chi and Qigong exhibition in Kansas City, and it got picked up by CNN, and so then other groups contacted us, and they said we wanted to be a part of that as well, and so then the next year it became World Tai Chi Day. And it was celebrated in about 5 U.S. states and about 5 different countries. And then it's just grown exponentially from there to be celebrated on the last Saturday of April every year in hundreds of cities in over 70 countries. And then a lot of the Tai Chi and Qigong practitioners and teachers were involved in other mind-body arts like yoga and Reiki and other types of meditation. And so some of those practitioners wanted to be able to celebrate those arts as well. So we expanded this event to be inclusive through a website that we call worldhealingday.org. And worldhealingday.org gives all kinds of mind-body practitioners an opportunity to participate in this global wave of healing intention, personal and global healing intention. And the motto of World Tai Chi and Qigong Day has been one world, one breath. And so now yoga groups or meditation groups that want to participate in this worldwide wave of healing intention that Tai Chi and Qigong practitioners have created have an opportunity to get involved at worldhealingday.org. But it's a real feather in the cap of Tai Chi and Qigong practitioners because they're the ones that grounded this vision and created this mass global event that has been celebrated all over the world and reported in major media all over the world, and also recognized by, I think 26 of the 50 U.S. governors as through official proclamations of World Tai Chi and Qigong Day. So Tai Chi and Qigong practitioners have really created something quite spectacular and extraordinary. And, they say the most sincere form of flattery is imitation. And so the fact that Tai Chi and Qigong practitioners have grounded this global vision of connection and healing and health education, and now there's yoga groups and Reiki groups and meditation groups that want to be a part of it. That's a real credit and compliment to the power of Tai Chi and Qigong and the influence and the vision that Tai Chi and Qigong teachers and practitioners have had around the world for these 15 years.
That's definitely an impressive development. Yeah. How many people do you think participate in the yearly celebrations of Tai Chi, Qigong, and related disciplines?
Well, some of these events have had, several thousand people, and there's events held in hundreds of cities in over 70 countries. And so we figure somewhere on the line of, hundreds of thousands of people. But, it could be much more than that because not everybody reports their events to us. Sometimes we'll learn about events through media reports that we didn't even know were going on. So the participation could be much more massive than we know of. But what we do know is that the events that we hold educate millions and millions of people around the planet to Tai Chi and Qigong and the benefits of mind-body practices through the media attention that we've gotten. Because, like I said, we've these events have been reported in the New York Times and the South China Morning Post in Hong Kong and China's Xinhua News Agency and BBC World Radio and media all over the world.
That's fantastic. And how many countries participate in this movement at this point?
It's over 70 that we know of, but it's growing all the time. About an hour and a half ago, I got an email from a Tai Chi teacher who actually has a bunch of schools in Algeria, and he was inquiring as to how Algeria could participate, and I don't think that we had Algerian events prior to this email that I got about an hour and a half ago. So it's growing all the time, and the interest is expanding.
And that also now extends to other disciplines. So there are yoga practitioners, there are meditators, there are healers of different ilk that are also celebrating on the same day. The last Saturday of April, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. It's always the last Saturday of April at 10 a.m. local time. And, what happened was over the years, last year, my wife and I, Angela Wong Douglas, we were sponsored to go to attend the World Tai Chi and Qigong Day event in Perth, Australia. The event there has been organized by Bev Abaya, and she's really, Perth was kind of one of the foundational events of the formation of World Tai Chi and Qigong Day, and so we flew over to Australia to speak at the event and also to do some presentations for the Australians there. And she had expanded it into this World Healing Day event where she had invited yoga practitioners and yoga teachers and Reiki, and they had like massage, a tent with massage chairs in it. And there were some people there that were teaching different kinds of meditation, one of them involving like Tibetan gongs. And so it was really quite an extraordinary and inclusive event. That also included a really massive Tai Chi and Qigong exhibition. And so this has been happening in different places. A couple of years ago, we got invited to speak at the event in Brasilia, Brazil, the capital of Brazil, as World Tai Chi and Qigong Day was included as part of a national celebration for the 50th anniversary of their capital, the country, Brazil's capital. And I'd seen photos from some of the Brazilian events of past events where they'd had chair massage tents set up. And so it's been kind of a collaborative, inclusive expansion of World Tai Chi and Qigong Day for many years. And through worldhealingday.org, we just created a venue where these other types of mind-body practitioners and teachers could, actually list and report on their events as well. But they're all held the same day, the last Saturday of April.
Well, and the World Healing Day.org, it's almost like a Facebook for healing practitioners, isn't it?
Yeah.
Virtually like a social network.
Yeah, we created a social network there. If you go to worldhealingday.org, you can click on the community section, and then also there's a place where if you teach Tai Chi or Qigong or other mind-body arts, you can list your school, and then people can search it by yoga or Tai Chi and Qigong, or they can do a general search for all the different mind-body arts. But the community page that you were referring to, it's a lot like Facebook, where you can set up an account and you can connect and you can share information about Tai Chi or Qigong, about your activities or the wisdom and knowledge that you've gained from this. And by posting it there, it can be exposed to people that are involved in other mind-body practices, or just people tuning in, that are interested in mind-body practices. And so it gives us a chance to kind of expand the wisdom of Tai Chi and Qigong out beyond the community, because I've found through my 30 years of practice that I've learned a lot. The Tai Chi and Qigong classes that I teach now, they incorporate things that I've learned from, kind of dabbling in yoga and other types of meditative arts. And I've found that these things have really enriched my Tai Chi and Qigong practice, and I think a lot of Tai Chi and Qigong teachers have experienced that. Like one of the things that when I first started studying meditation, I learned about mantra meditations, where people repeat a word or a phrase over and over again to bring their mind into an alpha state, and of course we've seen all the medical research that shows the profound health benefits from bringing your mind into that meditative state. And it really showed me, the brilliance of the creators of Tai Chi and Qigong, these Chinese masters that created this over the hundreds and thousands of years of development. Because really, what I realized by going kind of outside of Tai Chi and Qigong and studying mantra meditation was that that Tai Chi and Qigong are really just a really highly developed form of physical meditation, where it's as you breathe and loosen and flow through the Tai Chi and Qigong movements, you go into this into that alpha state, that real calm state where you're totally inside yourself, really experiencing all the sensations and the pleasures of the body. And what I realized was that these Chinese masters that created these arts had actually created a meditation that the mantra wasn't a repeated word or a phrase, but it was the breath and the physical sensations of the the pleasure that expands through the mind and the body, and all these internal awarenesses of posture and the loosening of the frame and all these kind of things. So it's like those physical sensations and pleasures and self-awareness are the mantra that takes the mind into that alpha state. So not only are you getting the meditative benefits, but you're also improving your balance and dexterity, and you're burning calories. You're creating the mind-body connections, left brain, right brain connections, and all the myriad benefits that you get from the physical aspect of Tai Chi and Qigong as well.
Well, yes, I would even call it kinesthetic-based initiation. Unlike auditory initiations, when you learn a mantra, for example, and repeat the sound that triggers entering into an altered state of consciousness, or, for example, visual practices for people who are more visually oriented. Visualizations are easier, so, say, imagining certain images, or, for example, perceiving energy visually, say through colors, or seeing auras, or being able to see certain energy swirling around you or through your body. But kinesthetic experience is something that requires a different sense altogether. I call the sixth sense kinesthesia. And initiated into the practice of meditation through kinesthetic awareness actually gives you a direct experience of life, because there is no life without movement. And if we don't pay attention to movement, kinesthesia, we actually observe life from a second-party perspective. So we are watching life flowing by, or we're listening to it, but we're not experiencing it firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this is definitely a fantastic experience of initiation into the experience of the flow of qi, the life force in your body and around it, through movement, and thereby experiencing it firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you study meditation, I can imagine you also learn about some profound effect on meditation on your consciousness. So, for example, we can speak of what consciousness is and how the development of a human race can evolve with the choice that we can consciously make as to which direction we go and how we proceed. So what would you say about the development of consciousness through such meditations as Tai Chi or Qigong practice?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, when we practice Tai Chi and Qigong, we go into that state where we start to become more conscious of, that radiance or that flow of life energy that moves through the body. Because when we let that Qi or life energy flow through our loosening body, that's when we're kind of letting go of all that surface tension, so that we can, so that the body just uses those core essential muscles to get things done. And so we start learning how to, to apply the least amount of physical exertion in order to get the maximum amount of physical results and power. But also when you're relaxing into that state, that qi state, it's like you get that sense of kind of lightness and openness, and also connection with things around you. You're immersing yourself in the field of qi. And so, Tai Chi's gotten woven in with Taoist philosophy over the many years, and Taoism talks a lot about the flow of energy and the movement of qi, and also how all things are connected. How it's a field of life, or a life force that we immerse ourselves in. And I think when we immerse ourselves in that life force or that field of chi or energy, it has a fundamental impact on the way that we see ourselves in the world, and we start having that feeling of being much more connected to things. I remember when I first got out of my first Tai Chi and Qigong class and I walked out, I just felt so connected, to the trees and the sky and, all the things around me. I felt really at home in my own skin. And so I think Tai Chi and Qigong, by cultivating that sense of chi or energy awareness in us, it really brings home the fact that we're part of an integrated whole. We're not these isolated beings. We're part of the web of life. And the great thing about the physical aspect of Tai Chi is it takes that higher state of awareness and it really brings it into our physical motions. And thereby it's kind of a metaphor for the way that it brings it into our physical lives, so that the way that we operate out in the world starts to change. We start finding, kind of looser, more effortless, and yet at the same time more mutually beneficial and expansive possibility in every action that we take, whether it's our work or the arts or the hobbies that we participate in, or the relationships that we build and all those kind of things. So Tai Chi and Qigong, they really give you that great physicalization, but at the same time, my Tai Chi and Qigong instruction and teaching over the the decades that I've been teaching have benefited from dipping my toe into yoga and meditation and those things, because those have really helped me become more conscious of that meditative state on a different level, so that now it integrates into my practice and into my teaching, so that sense of flow and lightness and connection and mutually beneficial possibility flows physically through the actions that I take and the way that I teach Tai Chi and Qigong as well. And I think it's the same for a lot of Tai Chi and Qigong teachers around the world that I've talked to.
Well, yes, the experience of entering a Qigong state, and my definition of Qigong state is the state of consciousness that allows you to experience the flow of Qi. Entering the Qigong state through a certain practices, through either visualization or just simply standing and allowing yourself to sink into that state, or doing certain movements that trigger that state, actually allow you to experience that sense of oneness and at the same time the flow, the constant flow of changes. So when we learn how to be in the flow of changes rather than resisting the flow or trying to manipulate it, that affects our ability to experience life more fully, more harmoniously, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and it makes us more adaptable, to the changing needs as life changes, which of course it's changing faster and faster.
It's changing all the time. Change is the most constant thing in the universe, as they say. So we have to learn how to really be in the flow of changes. That's the flow that we're talking about when we speak of being in the flow.
Yeah, well, and even now more than ever, Tai Chi and Qigong can play such an important role in the world because change is coming at us so rapidly. I'm 55, and so anywhere who's around my age, I'm sure there's a lot of baby boomers, that are probably listening to the program. But for us, we've seen the population of the planet Earth nearly quadruple just in our lifetime. When I was born, there was only about 2 billion people on the planet, and we've just passed 7 billion. And we're edging towards 8 billion, every day. And so we've literally seen the population of the planet quadruple in one lifetime. It took the whole history of humanity to the 1940s. To get to 2 billion, and now in one lifetime, a quadrupling of the population. It's really pushing us through so many changes, because everything's different environmentally and economically and all these kind of things. And so the changes that are rushing at us are putting an undue amount of stress on people, psychologically and emotionally and mentally and physically. And most of the health problems that people are facing, at least in the industrial world, are due to unmanaged stress. And so Tai Chi and Qigong give us a tremendous vehicle to help kind of lubricate the way, so that just the same way that we learn how to breathe our Tai Chi forms, to let go of that, that external tension that makes our Tai Chi forms kind of tight and kludgy, as we breathe and think of the Qi and the life energy just flowing through our limbs as we move through the forms. it lubricates that flow, that change from one form to the other, and it's really a beautiful microcosmic model of the macrocosm of what really the whole population of humanity and the planet are going through right now, is this ongoing and increasingly intense flow of changes. So we can either breathe and loosen and learn how to flow with that, and in that way facilitate that progression or that evolution to become the best that it can be, or we can kind of squeeze and tighten, and and a lot of people are dealing with that. Unmanaged stress is like an epidemic problem in the modern world, and so these mind-body tools really offer a great vehicle for the society as a whole to handle these things better.
Right. Well, last time I spoke to you, you mentioned something like 70% of human health issues result from stress. Not just exacerbated by stress, but actually they're caused by stress.
Yeah, there was a study done by Kaiser Permanente. It was a multi-year study, and they found that around 70% of all the illnesses sending people to their doctors were caused by stress. And I was so amazed by that statistic that I contacted one of the doctors that had been mentioning it, a Dr. David Sobel, who was a Kaiser Permanente physician. And when I spoke to him, he had worked in mind-body circles some, and so he was real aware of the potential. And he said that actually, if you looked at those numbers, it was higher than that. It was somewhere between 70 and 85%. And they weren't just talking about illnesses being aggravated by stress. They said that 70 to 85% were actually caused by stress. And so in the United States, the healthcare costs exceed $2 trillion per year. And so the potential of educating the public on Tai Chi and Qigong and mind-body arts to help alleviate those stress symptoms could potentially save us upwards of $1 trillion a year. I mean, we could transform, this world into a whole new realm of possibility with an extra $1 trillion a year. And so in coming weeks, we're actually planning to launch through the worldtaichiday.org site and through our newsletter a petition. You can create petitions on the White House website. And if they get 25,000 signatures, then it actually gets to within a fairly short period of time. You have to get 25,000 signatures within a couple of weeks, I think, or something like that. And but if you get them, it actually goes onto the president's desk. And what we're advocating in the petition is that Tai Chi and Qigong and mind-body arts be integrated into public school in age-appropriate ways, starting from kindergarten through 12th grade, so that kids are being educated 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, in mind-body arts, so that they can learn how to breathe and loosen, lower their high blood pressure, and in that way, not only find deeper peace of mind and become more educable, because when you're calmer and more centered, you're more educable, but also head off trillions and trillions of dollars of future illnesses and disease. And I know in the past, I've floated in our newsletters the idea of incorporating Tai Chi and Qigong and mind-body arts into the public education system, and I've had some resistance from teachers who were worried that would put them out of business. but actually, the opposite would happen, because if these kids were educated in the mind-body arts, K through 12. When they get out of school, they're going to want to find Tai Chi and Qigong and meditation groups to get involved with. It's like once you start doing this stuff, it's a lifelong endeavor. And so really these Tai Chi and Qigong teachers, the opposite of being put out of business, they would be in a renaissance and, in a dream world for Tai Chi and Qigong teachers. But aside from that, just as a citizen of a nation in the world, to have tools that we've benefited from, that we could be a part of to help integrate these things into public education in a way that would transform society in ways that we could not even begin to imagine, that would have tremendous benefits. And another thing, that there was a study that came out of the University of Miami School of Medicine a few years ago, and what they found was that teenagers that were diagnosed with attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder saw their ADHD symptoms dramatically go down as they practiced Tai Chi several times a week. And so there's a huge number of kids, not only in the United States, but in different countries around the world, that are being diagnosed with ADHD. And the Wall Street Journal did a really breakthrough article a few years ago. One of my students brought it in, and it was called "What If Einstein Had Been on Ritalin?" And the concern of the article was that there's so many kids that are being put on psychotropic drugs because they're being diagnosed with ADHD. And what they said was that if you look at it, many of what we consider geniuses through modern history, they would have very likely been diagnosed ADHD. And one thing that they found in the studies of these psychotropic drugs is that they tend to kind of flatline the creativity of these students. So we would have lost a generation of geniuses if that would have happened. And we may be in a situation where we may be losing the contribution of a lot of future geniuses who, if they were learning the mind-body arts, would not only not have to be incur the cost and the side effects of years of being medicated into normalcy, but that their creativity is actually enhanced by Tai Chi and Qigong and mind-body arts. And so that's the essence of the petition that we're going to launch. We haven't launched it yet, but if people get on our email list at worldtaichiday.org, join the free email list, we'll keep them updated. And when we launch that, we want to try to get that out through the mind-body community worldwide and get those 25,000 signatures so that we can get this on there, because as I referred to earlier, Tai Chi and Qigong really do, everybody that practices them knows that it enhances your creativity. You become more adaptive and creative in finding solutions. And so, never in the history of humanity have we more needed a generation of very adaptable, creative kids to come out of school.
Well, as you mentioned, the study of the Tai Chi and Qigong may also include learning how to accomplish more by doing less, which is my definition of peak performance. Mm-hmm. So not only people can learn how to move more gracefully and live without stress, but they can also develop the ability to perform at peak, whatever they do, whether they're artists or actors or business people or politicians. They can actually accomplish a lot more using a lot less resources, which is going to be a major challenge for humanity in the next 100 years or even next few years.
Yeah,
because with this rapid growth of population, resources are becoming more and more scant.
Yeah, I actually get into that in my novel that we talked about before.
Yes, and speaking of your novel, would you share with our listeners a little bit about it and how your vision of 2012 has changed since the time that you wrote the book?
Yeah, well, my novel is entitled 2012, The Awakening, and I actually started writing it about 6-7 years ago. And at that time, I didn't see much awakening going on. It was like the planet was, there was a lot of stress going on around the planet. But I had this vision of, how things could evolve. And the way that the novel starts out, it has a yin yang symbol. And some of your listeners may or may not be aware, but the yin yang symbol is actually originally called the Tai Chi symbol. It's the symbol for balance. It's the black wave interweaving with the white wave. And so these 30 years of Tai Chi and Qigong practice, I've studied Taoism and these concepts. And the yin-yang represents, all the polarities of life. If you were looking at it like from a subatomic physics level, it would be the positive and negative polarities. But there's no judgment to the negative polarity. It's just a reality, just like positive and negative polarity electrically. But every aspect, of life, light, dark, masculine, feminine, hard, soft, these are all representations of the yin and the yang, or the masculine and the feminine polarities. And so the concept of this novel was that as a human race, because the population of the planet is becoming, so dense, it's like we're being called upon to redefine ourselves in a new way so that we can proceed into the future in a much more, healthful and less stressful and less taxing way. And so the concept of it was that we're being called upon to redefine ourselves in a more balanced way, meaning touching into not only our masculine and constructive consciousness, but also the yin or the feminine and the receptive consciousness. And so in Taoism or traditional Chinese philosophy, the yang represents the masculine, and the masculine is kind of the approach that humanity has taken over the last 50,000 years. About 50,000 years ago, researchers found that what they called the Great Leap Forward, where humanity all over the planet, all the different pockets of humanity around the planet, made a great leap forward in technological progression. Everything's changed, the way that they constructed buildings or dwellings, the way that they hunted, the way that they formed tools. All these things took a great leap forward, even though there was no connection between these humans, all at the same time around 50,000 years ago, and that set the stage for the technological revolution. And so the technological revolution has been a real yang approach. It's really an approach of controlling the world. So the way that everything has developed has pretty much been exploration, conquest, and then exploitation of resources. And that worked okay for humanity, not for everybody, but it worked for the whole of humanity up to the point where we're at right now, where we've saturated the planet. There's really nothing left to conquer and exploit. So we're at a point where we really have to start figuring out how to do more with the resources that we have. And so the masculine and the feminine approach to things is, at the beginning of the novel, I use the metaphor of if you go to the kitchen cabinet and you open the kitchen cabinet and you put you stuck a flag in it and you claimed it as mine. So you go, this is my cabinet. Okay, that would be kind of the yang approach that humanity's taken in the past. But now we're being pushed into the yin or the feminine approach, and that would be where you open the cabinet. Feminine is like a homemaker. You open the cabinet and you survey the contents, and you have to decide how to most effectively utilize those contents to nurture everybody in the household. And in this case, our household is the 7 billion people on the planet, and so we're being pushed towards this new approach. And when we started this, or before we started this, you were talking about the efficiency that Tai Chi and Qigong creates. And the thing that Tai Chi and Qigong that I've really noticed over these 30 years of doing it is that it teaches you how to utilize the least amount of effort to get the maximum effect. And so in my the fourth edition of my Tai Chi book, The Complete Idiot's Guide to Tai Chi and Qigong, just came out in paperback and in ebook version on Kindle. And in it, I used to have the unbendable arm was in a later chapter, but I moved it up to the very first page of the book now because it's just such an amazing illustration of the power of Tai Chi and Qigong. And so what it is, the unbendable arm is, it's like I'll when I demonstrate it in my classes, I'll have like the biggest guy that I've got in the class to come up, and he'll put one hand underneath my wrist on my forearm, and then he'll put his other hand on my upper arm, and then he'll push up on my wrist and push down on my upper arm using the elbow as a fulcrum. And what I'll do is I'll tighten my fist and tighten my arm trying to resist that, and I can't. He's much bigger than me, and he'll bend my arm. My muscles can't resist it. But then what I'll do is I'll have him leave his hands in place, but I'll take a few breaths and just relax, and I'll just think of the downpour of chi or energy just pouring down through my relaxed body and down through my shoulder and my arm, and I'll open my hand and just loosen my fingers and just think of it flowing out through my fingers and out through the wall, and then all the walls in that part of the city. And when I get a feeling of like empty flow, like my shoulder and my arm are like a hollow bamboo reed with the wind just blowing down through it, then I'll give him a nod and have him try to bend it again, and he'll give it everything he's got, and he can't bend it. And then I'll teach my students how to do that the very first day. And so I put that up in the front of my new 4th edition that just came out in October of The Complete Idiot's Guide to Tai Chi and Qigong, because it was such a vivid illustration of the power that Tai Chi and Qigong has to maximize our efficiency. Because when you get down to it, the reason that they were able to bend the arm before is because you have an internal war going on. You have muscles fighting against muscles that are actually diminishing your power. But when you breathe and you let go and you allow that chi to flow down through your arm, that higher consciousness that the chi or the energy is, it knows which essential muscles need to hold steady in order to keep the arm from bending, and everything else is relaxing. So all the oxygen and all the nutrients and all the resources are moving to the most needed place at the most needed time. And so that's where we're approaching as a global family. And so that was the essence of my 2012 The Awakening novel. And so I've tried to incorporate all these philosophies of Tai Chi and Qigong and the Yin and the Yang and all these kind of things to facilitate the possibilities of where we're headed to humanity. But I laid it on top of just a nail-biting action novel, and because I just wanted to entertain people while they were being exposed to these things, and I think it was successful because I gotten some great reviews. Deepak Chopra as far as the issues of humanity, he wrote a blurb for the book, and he said, what a gift it is to see fictional entertainment tackling the large issues of humanity. But then on the other hand, as far as the action thriller, I got a great note from Dr. Effie Chow from the World Congress on Qigong, and I had sent her a copy of the book, and she sent me an email, and she said, I'm mad at you. And so I emailed her back, and I said, how come? And she said, because I got that novel, and it kept me up all night long. I had to find out how it was going to end. And so that's so that's the essence of the novel. It's entertaining, but it also incorporates kind of these challenges that humanity is going through, and paints a vision, a possibility. And so, like I said, 5 or 7 years ago, 6, 7 years ago when I started it, I didn't see these, this kind of change and possibility, but I'm starting to see it now. It's like there's so many changes that I've become aware of lately. Just the other day, there was a news report that New York City saw its first day without a murder, and it just stunned everybody.
Very impressive, yes.
Yeah, and then there was if you look at the trends, violent crime has been going down in America for decades. And then there was a study that just came out that was released in the form of a book from some major university researcher. And he found that when he went over all the records, right now the planet Earth is the least violent than it has ever been in human history. And I know if you watch the news, you go, oh, no, that's not true. But keep in mind, the news is only showing you little tiny slivers of humanity. They're not doing big newscasts going, it was really calm, and, it was really calm in this city or that city today. They're not telling you all that. And so there is some transformation that humanity is going through, and it's become calmer. And the research shows that meditation, when people go into alpha states through Tai Chi and Qigong, and the research that I was talking about was through meditation, but all these mind-body arts offer that kind of mental state, that it doesn't just affect you. When you practice these calming arts, it affects the community, it affects the state, it affects the nation. And when you look at the Yin Yang symbol, it's like these ancient practitioners of these arts were really tuned into this, because if you look at a real Yin Yang symbol, the white dot and the black dot in the interweaving white and black field is actually a smaller Tai Chi symbol. And then if you looked at the smaller dots in that, it would be another Tai Chi symbol, and on and on. And so what they were trying to convey, there's so much wisdom in the Tai Chi symbol when you look deeper into it. What they were trying to convey is that each one of us is a microcosm of the macrocosm of society. And so when each one of us practices arts that can calm and loosen, make us more adaptable and evolutionary and flexible and able to change more easily into more positive ways that are mutually beneficial, that it ripples out, just like when you throw a stone in a pond, those ripples ripple out through society. And so, if a bunch of people in my town of Overland Park are practicing mind-body arts and becoming more adaptable and in those ways, then the whole city starts to become affected by that. And then, if different cities in the state, the whole state of Kansas, and then the whole country, and, you go on through the whole world. And so you're starting to see that. It's really an exciting time to be alive and to be part of these mind-body arts. And so the novel kind of encaptured essentially what I've been doing over the years, studying these things, practicing these things. And it reflected a lot of what's in my Tai Chi and Qigong book as well, but in the form of that nail-biting story.
Well, this is fascinating. And I would imagine that you can extrapolate the changes that you've observed since then and project them into the near future. Let's say, where do you see humanity would be in just 10 years from now if the rate of adaptation of Tai Chi and Qigong practice would continue increasing?
Yeah, well, I think I think we're starting to see the benefits of the spread of Tai Chi and Qigong and meditation and mind-body arts around the planet already. Just through the statistics that I had mentioned, and I think that it's just going to continue expanding. I mean, these things are spreading so fast. The internet has made things so much more accessible to people, and I see these things expanding. Now, I mentioned the petition that we're planning on launching to try to get the White House to work with Tai Chi and Qigong and mind-body experts around the world to start to get these things into public education, because the more we can expand these tools, then the more fluid and evolutionary the whole society will become. Because, when you breathe and loosen and learn how to, it's like the Tai Chi forms or the Qigong movements become kind of a microcosmic metaphor for the changes of life. As we loosen and breathe and allow these changes to flow through us more easily, it just, it's like change can even come faster and faster and faster and faster. And so I can see in 10 years, dramatic changes. If we could get this stuff into the public education system, basically in 12 years, we'd have a whole generation of mind-body masters. It's like, illnesses like high blood pressure would be something you'd read about in history books, like polio. Yeah, and so, we'd be saving trillions of dollars. We could create a free energy economy. We wouldn't have to have old people on Social Security, living on cat food to make ends meet. It's, the possibilities of a, compassionate, hopeful, visionary future beyond anything that we could even comprehend are, it's just right on the tips of our fingers. If we can just kind of keep breathing and sharing these techniques as well as living them ourselves.
Well, and what could possibly stop us from experiencing this benefit, from seeing the expansion of this wonderful arts through the mainstream society?
Mm-hmm. Well, when you get down to it, the only thing that is holding society back is what's happening in human consciousness. It's between our ears. Technology has evolved so fast. I mean, we're on the verge of a free energy economy, which would relieve all kinds of pressures economically as well as, geopolitically. You wouldn't have these struggles over energy. Or in energy-rich lands and things like that, and so it's like the technology is just coming so fast. And part of it is a deeper understanding of the power of mind-body arts like Tai Chi and Qigong. But when you get down to the essence, what's the only thing that's really holding us back isn't physical. It isn't that we don't have solutions to these problems that we're facing. It's that the mind hasn't let go of old self-definitions. We're still seeing ourselves in a world that no longer exists. We don't exist in a world that had 2 or 3 billion people anymore. We live in a world that has more than twice that number. 3 times or twice that number, and so this ungripping of human consciousness is the main thing that's required for us to move into this ever-blooming future of possibility that literally is limitless. Einstein said that imagination is more important than knowledge, and that's absolutely true. It's like the revolutions of the future are not going to be conducted with weapons on a battlefield. They're going to be conducted with slide rules and AutoCAD engineering systems. And so, but what holds it back, the possibilities of it is the whole of society unlocking and ungripping our minds from old self-definitions so that we can flow into visions of newness and possibility. And, when you get down to it, anybody who's practiced Tai Chi and Qigong, they feel that happening. When they flow through the forms, they start to feel themselves expanding and opening into something larger. It's that energy body that we are. There's a study that just came out, like in the last couple of months, that showed that Tai Chi increased brain size. Imagine that. Tai Chi increases brain size.
Well, I can certainly imagine that. Although, as you probably know, how they say that the size doesn't really matter. It's what to do with it that matters.
yeah, I've heard that before. Well,
so if we use only 10 or so % of our brain, then we might as well just learn how to use more of what we've already got.
Mm-hmm. Well,
because that would create tremendous expansion of human consciousness without having to grow a bigger head.
Yeah. Well, they've just discovered that Tai Chi increases brain size, so I'm sure the follow-up studies will be how does it do that? And I think it's kind of a physical metaphor. It's like, for example, if you use a muscle over and over again, it gets larger. And so the brain, I think the increasing size of the brain that they're seeing is really just a physical reflection of the expanded energy usage of the brain, because when you practice meditation and Tai Chi and Qigong and these kind of mind-body arts that bring your mind into that kind of a more expansive alpha state, there's more synapses firing. There's an integration. There's a neuroplasticity, where the energy connections between different nerves and neurons are reaching out to one another and formulating whole new pathways. So there's all kinds of activity that's happening in the mind that can't be seen on a physical level, that is being reflected by that physical enlargement of the brain. And so, it's like the changes that Tai Chi and Qigong and meditation and mind-body arts create in us have this way of kind of expanding this energy being that we are, because that's what you learn that as you practice these arts over the decades, is that the Chinese were really touching into the idea that we really have this energy body that the physical body is a part of, because when you get down to the little bits and pieces of the atoms, it's really just energy waves. It's energy waves floating through a field of potential energy. So we're these energy beings, and the physical body that we are is kind of created based on that energy template that we've got underneath it, which can either be tight and constricted, or it can be expansive and evolving and open. And just to give you an example of this, my Tai Chi teacher, Jazz Booth in San Francisco, she's working as an artist now. She's not teaching Tai Chi right now, but she started the liminal arts movement in California. And she used to do an exercise where she'd stand in front of a wall at the beginning of a Tai Chi class, and everybody would look at her, and then she would flow through the Guangping Yang style long form that we do. It's about 15 or 20 minute form. And then after she'd do it, she'd go stand in exactly the same place, and inevitably everybody thought that she looked bigger. Not just a little bit bigger, but a lot bigger. Because we didn't have any physical references. It was like a white wall behind her, but she just looked way bigger. And so it's like we literally expand our presence. Walt Whitman had a great line in one of his poems. He goes, "I do not convince by arguments, similes, and rhymes." He goes, "I convince by my presence." And when you practice Tai Chi and Qigong, your presence is much bigger. It's much clearer. It's much more connected. It's much more compassionate, and it's much more limitless in possibility.
Absolutely. You practice being present, and your presence becomes more noticeable.
Exactly. And clearer.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just like last year, I interviewed the wife of Eckhart Tolle, the well-known writer about presence. And the author of Power Now and similar books. And essentially, she teaches Qigong as the technique or the method for learning how to be present. Because when you're really in the Qigong state, you're paying attention to the flow of Qi as it is happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say that it's the only thing that one should ever focus on, but it's definitely a remarkable way of using this particular discipline.
Yeah, well, Eckhart Tolle, in A New Earth, his book A New Earth, he wrote that Tai Chi, Qigong, Yoga, and the mind-body arts were going to be, a fundamental part of human evolution. And I think that what you touched into with that sense of being present, when I go through my Tai Chi and Qigong classes, we go through a series of moving Qigong exercises, and I have them do it with their eyes closed so that they can really be completely present within their own body. Because when your eyes open, you tend to kind of see things outside of your body. Your awareness kind of goes out there. And then when we finish, what I do is I just, have them do a big exhale and a kind of a sinking and a letting go. And then just stand there with their eyes closed and just resonate with that kind of radiant, tingling lightness that you feel, and just being completely present in the moment. Nowhere to rush to. What I was telling them is that we're practicing the art of feeling as though we're in exactly the right place at exactly the right time, doing exactly the right thing. Because when you're in that state of mind, you're in the zone. And that's when you're operating at peak creative performance. And, of course, that's what the planet needs right now in order to go through these challenges of the future, is not to fear the future or not to, constantly reach back for some illusory past that we thought was better than where we're at right now, but to be completely present in the moment. And also, I think that, Tai Chi and Qigong, they also offer kind of a feeling of, you get a feeling of gratitude. Because, when you're in that moment and you're feeling that looseness and lightness and that flow of chi and that, that sense of healthfulness and wellness, it's like you just kind of have this feeling of tremendous gratitude for your existence. And I think that feeling of gratitude for our existence, it's like a seed that the flower of the future grows out of. And so, it's like, every time we immerse ourselves in these mind-body arts, we're planting a seed of possibility for where we're going to expand to in the future. Because, like I said, fears of the future and regrets and longing for the past, those don't get you anywhere. They paralyze you. And so by breathing and opening and allowing that radiance, that lightness, that chi to expand through our consciousness and through our physical bodies, it makes us much, much more effective and efficient and productive.
Absolutely. That's exactly how I teach, for example, to increase strength. The strength training that I teach actually is not based on increasing the size of the muscles, but rather by training how to use a greater percentage of the muscle that you already have. Mm-hmm. Because when you use the muscle and, for example, lift some weights, the following day or two, you may massage or palpate the muscle and you will feel that there is a rope inside of it. It's those fibers of the muscle that actually did the job. And the rest, sometimes 90% of the muscle mass, actually was slacking or just hanging out there. They feel larger because they're just pumped up with the lymph and the metabolic waste products like the lactic acid. Right. But they're actually not participating in most of the activity. And so what I teach is how to use more of the percentage of the muscle mass that you already have. And women particularly like this approach because they don't want necessarily to get big and bulky like bodybuilders, but they can actually take advantage of greater strength.
Right. Well, yeah, and it's the concept of doing more with less, which is, really kind of a microcosmic metaphor, to get back to the Yin Yang symbol of how, the microcosm is representative of what the whole planet's going through, because we're being called upon to do more with less. And you mentioned the lactic acids, and the lactic acids actually cause anxiety. So some of the exercises that people are practicing to try to unstress are actually contributing to their stress because they're creating those lactic acids. And so Tai Chi and Qigong are very unique because they're done in a very relaxed way where you're actually moving lymph and the muscles are relaxing and the circulation and the lymph are moving, so they're actually detoxifying the body of these lactic acids and these stress chemicals as you're flowing through them. And but the thing is like you've found in your practice and your teaching, is that you're actually more powerful and effective when you're exerting the least amount of effort. Henry Look was one of the grand masters of the Guangping Yang style that I practiced, and he studied under Master Kuo in San Francisco. But he was actually a highly regarded architect as well as a Tai Chi master. And he said that when you get down to it, Tai Chi is a really highly evolved form of human physiological engineering understanding, because he said that when you get down to it, it's like Tai Chi and Qigong. They teach us how to let go of everything. It's like I had mentioned the unbendable arm before.
One of the exercises that I also learned when I studied Aikido, by the way.
Right. Aikido's, I think it's the closest thing to Tai Chi in the other arts. But that sense of, when we do the unbendable arm, we think of letting the arm let go, and we just let that, effortless flow of energy pour through the arm. And then what that does is it lets all the muscles relax. And when we go through the Tai Chi forms, I'm always encouraging students to just think of as that chi or that life energy radiates through or flows through the body, think of letting the muscles all let go and just sink onto the vertical axis, or just flow through the arm or the leg or whatever. And by thinking of letting all the muscles go, that higher consciousness finds those most core, key, essential skeletal muscles that are required in order to hold that in place. And you can't figure that out intellectually. It's like you have to kind of give over to that sense of looseness and flow, and then that's when you become the most powerful with the least amount of effort. And so these core engineering principles, it's like they teach us how to learn how to apply the least amount of pressure at the key moments in our life where they get the maximum potential. And so in 2009, I got inducted into the Internal Arts Hall of Fame in New York, and there were a lot of really great martial artists there. And when I got home, I had read something that somebody had posted on Facebook or somewhere. And you can get all these great accolades in your life, but it's like when you get something negative, that's what really sticks in your mind. And so anyway, some guy had written on there, yeah, Bill Douglas, he only got inducted into the Internal Arts Hall of Fame because he organized this thing called World Tai Chi and Qigong Day. He's not really a great martial artist. But the thing is, or he said, he's not really a great Tai Chi master. But the thing is, it's like creating a world event. It's like it's not an easy thing to do, and I don't think I would have ever been able to do anything like that if I hadn't had those 25 years of Tai Chi practice, because it taught me how to apply effort at key points where it would have the maximum effect, where it would unfold in different ways. So in a way, the creation of this world event was really a Tai Chi exercise, just like everything that we do in our lives. It's like our relationships, arts that we're involved in, or, sports that we're involved in, or creating businesses, or, whatever it is that we're approaching in our life. It's like it's learning how to breathe and loosen and relax and kind of let intuition and possibility flow through, and also to be aware of the points where we need to exert some pressure in order to get the maximum benefit. So really, Tai Chi is a way of life. It's not just an exercise.
Exactly. Well, and if you apply the same principles and the same skill set to other areas of life, for example, relationships or business or even politics, and look into even more distant future, let's say 50 years to 100 years from now, where do you see humanity if we really learn how to apply this principle, this wisdom in all spheres of our lives?
Yeah, well, I think we will. I mean, humanity is already evolving at a tremendous rate, and things are changing. There's so many technological things on the horizon, that are coming through so rapidly. And mind-body arts and sciences, they're spreading, at an unimaginable rate across the planet. So we're headed for just an extraordinary possibilities, especially as humanity becomes more adept, at kind of breathing into and loosening up around the changes that are flowing through us, so that we can find more creative win-win-win situations and possibilities to solve these problems with. And so I think that, what we're seeing in the future, it's out, kind of in this shimmering vagueness just beyond where our mind can reach, because our minds are constantly evolving and expanding. So it's like where we're headed, I see it as something much more grand and much more pregnant with possibility than anything we could ever imagine. It's like I can see a future of, yin, receptive, renewable, free energy throughout the planet. We're there. It's like squabbles over resources will become less and less as we learn how to do more and more with what we've got. And also, people learning mind-body arts, as they immerse themselves in these meditative states in this field of chi or life energy, they become more and more resonant to the feeling of connectedness. They feel more connected to one another and to the planet and to the web of life. And so all that's going to facilitate a whole new way of interacting with other people. I see in the future that every Congress, every Parliament, every business meeting is going to start with some kind of Tai Chi or Qigong or mind-body meditation or something that's going to calm the nervous system and create this kind of creative possibility in people's minds before they engage in any kind of endeavor. And I think we're going to untangle a lot of the knots that we just thought of as the way of the world. It's like, it's all in an evolutionary state. And I see, I don't see this doom and gloom that a lot of people see for the future. I don't yearn for the past. I'm in a point now where I'm more excited to see the unfolding future than I've ever been in a long time.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds like a really optimistic and bright picture that you just shared with us. Let me ask you to conclude our interview perhaps with a few words of wisdom that you may have for our listeners.
Well, you kind of put me on the spot with that one.
Okay, we'll have to edit that.
Well, I think what we're seeing, as I see these things unfolding around the planet, like these 12/12 celebrations and World Tai Chi and Qigong Day and World Healing Day, it's like people want to be part of a connected whole. They want to envision possibility for the future. It's like we're all eager for this. It's like it's almost like we're all kids on Christmas Eve. Not to rule out anybody who's Jewish or Islamic or whatever, but just the metaphor of it. It's like you have that excited possibility of what's going to happen the next morning. When you get to open all those presents, and it's like you see the way these ideas that are just wrapping the planet, with just millions of people who are eager to create, kind of a global vision of possibility through their own healthful and visionary possibilities in their life, and also what they share with others in their community, but also connecting as a global whole. And it just feels like there's just a wisdom that is just permeating through humanity that is just, I'm awestruck by it. So I guess the answer to your question is I don't really have any wisdom to share with the planet, but it just seems like the planet is sharing more and more wisdom with me all the time.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Bill. It's been wonderful to interview you today. And I want to remind our listeners that you've been listening to the interview with Bill Douglas, the founder of World Tai Chi and Qigong Day, on the talk show, The Secrets of Qigong Masters, and the Summit of Qigong Masters.
الثالثة معبرة هذه المرة عن رؤية جديدة ومترقبة لمستقبل أفضل.
World Tai Chi and Qigong Day was marked in many countries around the world. Our correspondent in Israel joined local practitioners in celebrating
unless we breathe in each other, there is no God.
On Friday, dozens of teachers and students of various martial art disciplines for body and mind attract both fitness fans and spiritual seekers.
More than 1,000 practitioners of Tai Chi gathered at Brookside Park in Pasadena this morning, joining a worldwide celebration taking place today in 250 cities, 90 countries.
Mundial del Tai Chi. Esta es la sede